Hey, 190. It's my man Sam. Say hi, Sam. Sam's not much of a talker. That's okay. Things are getting weird. People have been telling apocalypse jokes like there's no tomorrow. Think about it. You'll get it. Without too much further ado, let's jump into the week and take a look at actually what is going to be coming your way across 2 weeks. See what we mean. All right, here we are, 190. This is classic footage of Tom Curran surfing a wave pool in Allentown, Pennsylvania, way back in the Dark Ages. This is often alluded to in a lot of historical texts as well as articles. It's known that he surfed the end of this wave, walks into the shallow, steps off the board, and just leaves the competition entirely. In fact, I think the article that you read about him earlier in the year mentions this. So I remember as a kid dreaming of getting to Allentown, PA, as I lived over on the western side of the state in Pittsburgh and spent my summers in the Outer Banks, like most of Pennsylvania. And this was a dream that just never came to fruition. They tore the pool down and it was gone before I had the chance to rip it there like Curran does. But anyway, it's a nice look at what was potentially to come and what has indeed arrived. Which brings us to this week. This week, you have a fair amount of things facing you, though it looks like far more than it actually is. The first thing that we really need to detail and bring to light is your character anthology. This has been sitting out there for quite a while, and it's something that hopefully is not new to you. Originally, the idea was that you guys would try to make use of your Adobe subscriptions, which you get as part of your tuition, and use Adobe Spark to generate a digital character anthology. Because we are unable to sort of work through it together in class, and some of you have never signed up for Spark before, it presents a number of problems. So let's do this. If you are able to get Spark and use Spark in order to create your anthology, wonderful. If you are unable to get to it but would like to, please email me and I'll be happy to set up a Zoom chat to show you how to navigate through the various logons and sign-ins. It's not terribly difficult, but it's not terribly intuitive. The program itself is especially intuitive. Some of you tried it early with your character anthologies, and I think you found you can have a whole lot of fun with it. It makes it look really professional, really polished, and then you can really begin to play with how you scroll text over a picture or how you move the picture or maybe include a video. The other option is to use some other program of your choice that you know well so that you're not teaching yourself a new program, or to just go ahead and do it in Word. Now, if you do it in Word, the pictures that you choose to include are going to be rather limited. In other words, that you really can't include a film, a moving picture, but you can include a static one. And you can do it that way as well. As for possible submission document types, I've given everything, right? So no matter what you use to try to create your anthology, even if you make your own little web page, which is essentially what Spark is doing for you. But regardless, you will be able to upload it, right? There's not a limit on it just has to be this or that. It can be anything, okay? So, once again, I would prefer that you try your hand at Spark and log on and get used to it. You can call up TAC and get them to help you. You can also email and get me to help you, and we'll set up a Zoom and we can go screen by screen and look at exactly what it is that you're seeing and get you logged in. It's really not hard to use. Now, as for details about the assignment, remember you need 15 total characters, and characters being a really loose term. It doesn't have to be a person. It could be a thing, a novel, a book, a film, something, right? An industry, an organization, could be any of those. But 15. These 15 characters should represent 3 crucial themes of focus across our study of surfing thus far. This could be like environment, issues of race, surf travel, issues of localism, issues of gender, issues of myth and ethos, right? Any of those, right, can be crucial themes. The characters that you choose do not need to connect to all three themes. In other words, your character does not have to universally cross three identified themes. You only need 3 themes and 15 characters, so your character may only be appropriate to your theme of gender and have nothing to do with the other. No problem. Okay. If you have more questions about that, please call me or email rather, and I'll be happy to get to it. Now, to what you have. Okay. Because you have this hanging over you by then, right? I've tried to set it up so that what I'm asking you to do in our little mini units of weeks here really extends across both week 15 and week 16. In other words, this is not due this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday, May 3rd. Okay. And I'm going to ask you to sort of engage in what would normally be these 2 weeks over the course of the 2 weeks as you see fit. What do you have to engage in? I'm glad you asked. The first thing that you need is to read Westwick and Neuschel's chapter on engineering the coast. It's a pretty nominal chapter, so save yourself some time to read it. And it begins to get into the details and ideas behind both environmental protection and what that looks like, as well as actually engineering coastline for the development of surfable waves. Pretty novel idea, which then if you extend and spin it forward, you come to the ultimate and obvious conclusion of, hey, why not a wave pool? So you must first read and address this. Then you must read and address this. This is the first piece of scholarship where I'm going to ask you to read it in its entirety. It's not terribly long. It's about as long as the chapter of Westwick and Neuschel. And it's not terribly difficult to discern either. It's pretty comprehensible. The only part that may be a bit tricky is under methods, where they begin to go at length about the data that they've collected. Certainly those of you who are more data and environmental engineering minded might find this interesting, but this, for the rest of you, is the sort of thing that you can kind of skim over, at least to see some of the numbers involved and what those were. But it's not necessarily of crucial work to you, nor is there discussion of the literature review. This you can probably skip almost entirely. Now, when you get here, this is something you would want to be looking at with a little more closer eye. You've already discussed Baudrillard earlier this semester, as a matter of fact, and here he is again, or rather, she is again. How unusual, right? Read this, okay? And read it through to the end. It is understandable. It is not overly academic. You should be able to make heads and tails of it. Then the conclusion, obviously, as well, right? And that will set you up for the remaining engagements that you have under the loose collection of wave pool title. And that is, the first is a website, right? And it probably will work best if you explore it outside of Canvas here so that you can see what it looks like. But I want your reaction to this. Take a look at the different tabs that it offers, the different people that are involved with it, the selling of it. This is an actual engineered world-class golf and wave pool oasis that they're attempting to build, right? They've even got some of the data and info about what it'll look like, how it will affect and be affected by local environmental concerns. And if you cruise on down, they've got a little promo video. But even more importantly, they've got some other links to their work as it appears in some of these other in industry as well as outside of industry publications. Should be fairly interesting. In addition to the DST wave pool, you've also got a small 20-minute episode of Weird Waves to watch, right? And definitely open this in a new window. It's on YouTube. Weird Waves is a show that chronicles a pro surfer, Dylan Graves, as he surfs, guess what, weird waves all over the world. And in this case, they take a unique look at just wave pools. This is a growing science all over, and there's a number of ways to get it done. Akalupo, Aki, who apparently is God, does have his own little wave pool that they've got going on in Australia. So it's not a uncommon science. And what is the science? I'm glad you asked. Take a look here with the science behind the wave. The science behind the wave is literally that. It is a short 3-minute little video about the science of Kelly Slater's man-made wave in Waco, Texas. Then you've got a short little article about whether or not these wave pools are compelling, as well as Kelly Slater and his efforts to build a new wave pool resort in the Coachella Valley. Should be interesting. Westwick and Neuschel's chapter, as you note, Engineering the Coast, does discuss, yes, the idea of an engineered man-made wave, but it also discussed the idea of environmental protection. So over the course of the 2 weeks, you also have these to respond to. 3 works under environment. Beamish, the warden, deals with the Hollister Ranch, and it comes from the Surfer's Journal. So it's going to have a lot of glossy, beautiful pictures, which now you can also comment on, right? And it's going to have a lot of good information about, the impetus for the surfing place in Tapping the Source. It's kind of based on this place here, in particular, the ranch, right? And it talks about the game warden there at the ranch and the environmental protection that has long been part of being able to surf there and is now beginning to be open. So we want to look at these 2 short blogs about surfer interaction with environmental protection and what that looks like, right? So for the 2 weeks, you have to handle this, which is its own thing. Then our little mini unit for the 2 weeks is set up by Westwick and Neuschel. Read Ponting, Jess Ponting's Waves of Authenticity, noting where to slow down and where you can kind of skim. Look at and explore the Wave Pool Resort website, the company that's building these. Watch the Weird Waves Wave Pool Edition with Dylan Graves. Check out the 3-minute science behind the wave. Look at these 2 articles on wave pools. They're both short and quick, right? Under core works of environment, you have to read Beamish. You have to read these 2 quick blogs as well. That sets you up to then complete your weekly response by May 3rd. Okay. The last thing to discuss is your final paper, which while the week module isn't open, it is open under assignments. You can see what it is. Essentially, you want to start thinking about what it is that you want to write about for a final paper. What is your final paper? It's a very loose final paper in that it is really just a longer response. It's just a longer weekly response paper. Typically, you guys are averaging anywhere from 2 to 4 pages. Now I'm going to ask you to push a little further and go 4 to 5. But rather than me grouping things together for you, that's your job. You're going to figure out what it is that you want to look at and then trace it through some different things as part of surfing. It could be things that we've looked at already and you find these connections engaging and entertaining and want to do a little bit more analysis of them. Great. It could be ones that you find on your own. Wonderful, right? It can be literally anything, and we'll get into that a little bit more. I'll do another video update next week, and I'll explain a little bit more about how you can note the role of genre and really just delving into the description itself once the character anthology is off your plate. But I do want you to be aware it's out there. And what is it? It's just a longer weekly response, right? And presumably you're going to do a little bit more editing of your work, right? Try to include some mechanics and grammar and transitions and pay attention to that kind of stuff because it is sort of a finished paper. It's not a traditional paper in the sense that you have to do a lot of scholarly research. It's more of a long response paper. Again, more information to follow. Okay. Hopefully that clears up these 2 weeks for you, and then I'll be checking in at the beginning of next week again to go into this and what all that means, right? And how you might even do it like this. But for now, over the course of the next 2 weeks, you're trying to read through and respond to these, read through and respond to these, and read through and respond to this, right? So give yourself some time, do it where you can. The longer works are this one, and this one. Get those out of the way, and these others are relatively short and sweet and can be dealt with relatively concisely. Okay, any questions, please don't hesitate to email. And again, any questions about your character anthology, be sure to ask and email. Don't silently suffer. Okay, 190, that's it. Hopefully that gets you caught up on the next 2 weeks. I'll be checking in again, like I said, in all the other parts of this video early next week to make sure that you're squared away on what to do for your final response paper. Don't wait too long to begin thinking about it, or it becomes overwhelming, right? In the meantime, chip away at your character anthology and chip away at your weekly, quote-unquote, weekly response for the next 2 weeks. And that should sort of carry us on out. Let's see. Is there anything else that... Oh, yeah, I know. This is a thinking man's one, so here you go. A steak pun is a medium well done. Think about it. You'll get it. Talk to you next week, and please reach out by email if you got questions.